A good way to clean up any winter annual weeds in a Bermuda lawn this time of the year is to spray them with a non-selective herbicide like Roundup. Now you might be thinking, won't I kill my lawn if I spray it with Roundup? Well, Roundup and other non-selective herbicides do kill anything green that they come in contact with. But this time of the year, the lawn is brown, it's not green, it's not actively growing, so the Roundup's not going to hurt it. Now the weeds are green and actively growing, so they will absorb the herbicide and they'll be killed. Now some of the more notorious of our winter annual weeds are henbit and annual bluegrass. The henbit, I'm sure everyone is familiar with, little plant in the mint family, characteristic with these little tubular purple flowers that we see all over the state, really. There are some people who don't mind having henbit in their lawns. In fact, they like the huge purple meadows that the plant creates in the late spring. But if you want a weed-free lawn, it is quite troublesome. Now, the annual bluegrass is a very low-growing, grassy weed, as you can see here, and it likes compacted soil. I dug this out of one of our utility drives out here at our studio garden. But golf courses have a big problem with this, and we usually have quite a problem with the annual bluegrass here at our studio gardens because of all the compaction with all the visitors we get here at the studio gardens. Now, if you're going to spray these with the Roundup or other non-selective herbicide, you need to go and do it immediately after you see this episode of Oklahoma Gardening. And that's because time is running out. You want to spray them while they're in their vegetative state. In other words, you want to catch them before they start flowering, especially the henbit. Once it starts flowering, it's extremely hard to kill with pretty much any kind of herbicide. So you'll want to spray them before they start flowering. And another reason you want to spray immediately is because it won't be too much longer before our Bermuda grass lawns will be greening up. Even right now, in the middle of February, you can see a few sites on the edges of south-facing walls or lawns that come up against a fence on the south side. You can still see some of the Bermuda grass starting to green up already. You don't want to spray it if it's starting to green up. So be sure and spray immediately. You'll have the best results if you spray on a sunny day with a temperature about 50 degrees or warmer. And also it's important to not water the turf after about 12 hours after you've sprayed it. It's also important to spray the turf lightly, kind of like I'm doing here, back and forth over the turf. And some garden centers and ag supply stores sell this blue marking dye that you can use to see where you've been, so you don't have to spray the same weeds twice. This also helps you know what rate you're applying the herbicide. Now, the reason you want to just go over it lightly and not douse an area to the point of runoff is because you can damage the Bermuda. This is called exceeding the carrier rate. And I'll explain that in the fact that once you read the label and you mix up your herbicide, you know how many tablespoons or teaspoons per gallon of water to use, and you get the correct concentration. But there is also only so much of the product that you can apply in any given area. This again is called the carrier rate, and it's usually given in pints per acre. For instance, Roundup Pro can only be applied at a pint to a pint and a half per acre or less. And the way it can harm your turf is that when you're spraying lightly over the top, you can see that the Bermuda grass is dormant up here. We've got lots of brown leaves and stems. But down at the base of these sprigs of grass, we actually have some green color. So the Bermuda doesn't go completely dormant. This little bit of green can absorb the herbicide and can stun it. I've seen lawns where people have sprayed it too heavily. The Bermuda has traveled down the stems, been absorbed by that little bit of green tissue, and the lawns are severely stunted. They take forever to green up in the spring, and they have a lot of dead spots in the lawn. So be sure you don't drench the turf, just go over it lightly. Now, another thing to remember when you're spraying is to be sure and not hit any of your evergreen landscape plants that are green in the garden, or any other of those perennials that may be greening up. You don't want to accidentally get any herbicide on those and stunt those in any way. And you really don't want to spray when it's terribly windy, so keep in mind the drift from the Roundup. If you're an organic gardener and you don't really like putting chemicals on your lawn or garden, there are a few things you can do to keep the winter annual weeds from cluttering up your lawn. You can take your lawnmower and set it down to the lowest setting possible and slowly mow over your lawn. And this scalping action will remove all of the leaves and stem of last year's lawn. And it'll also clean up a lot of those winter annual weeds. This scalping action will cause your Bermuda lawn to green up a lot faster than it normally would, and it sort of gets a head start on those weeds and helps choke them out. The scalping action also helps eliminate thatch from your lawn. That is that layer of undecomposed leaves and stems. Helps get that up. If you're going to do this to your lawn, it's a good idea to do that in late February. Maybe even early March for those of you in the northern part of the state. Well, one other organic method for controlling weeds is to spray them with vinegar. It may sound hard to believe, but vinegar actually works. In May of last year, the USDA Agricultural Research Service released a report stating that a 5 to 10% concentration of vinegar is effective as an herbicide. The report also stated that it works best if the vinegar is used on weeds that are about 2 weeks old or less. So you got to get them pretty early. So the vinegar is a very nice organic way to control weeds in the lawn. Well, if you're going to be spraying Roundup over your Bermuda lawn, make sure you get out there and do it pretty quick. Wait till the end of February to scalp your lawn, and if you're going to try out the vinegar, do that on those very young weeds.
We hope you enjoyed this video. It's part of our OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel. You can also find more recent videos on our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. And join us on social media for great gardening tips, photos, and discussion.